Across the immense sweep of China's landscape lies a forgotten chapter of human history. Scattered throughout this vast terrain are hundreds of colossal megalithic structures that appear to display the use of advanced technology, hinting at the existence of a large and highly sophisticated civilization that once flourished in the region we now call China. It was an ancient society that carved enormous stone blocks weighing more than 1,000 tons, built over 200 pyramids across immense distances, removed thousands of tons of rock to create vast cave networks with the aid of what seems like advanced technology, and accomplished much more besides. This vanished culture, rich in monumental architecture, technical sophistication and profound knowledge, seems to have disappeared almost instantly, most likely because of a catastrophic global cataclysm. Predating the boundaries of accepted historical records, this enigmatic civilization challenges our entire understanding of the human past and forces us to ask, what secrets still lie hidden beneath the ancient soil of China? Join us as we explore the mysteries of this unknown advanced culture, tracing the remains of its existence and attempting to piece together the puzzle of its sudden disappearance. The Yang Shan quarry, located on the outskirts of Nanjing, China, is a site filled with archaeological anomalies that challenge conventional ideas about ancient engineering. At the heart of this mystery stands a gargantuan megalithic block estimated to weigh 16,000 tons, making it the largest known stone ever cut by human hands. To grasp the sheer enormity of this block, consider that it is more than 13 times heavier than the largest known megalithic block in the world at Baalbek in Lebanon, which weighs about 1,200 tons. The logistics involved in cutting, extracting, and transporting a stone of such scale are staggering even to imagine. With the technology available today, moving a 16,000-ton block would still be considered impossible, no matter how many cranes or pieces of heavy machinery were employed. That raises an obvious question. What kind of technology did this ancient civilization possess that would have enabled it to transport stone blocks of such colossal size? And the evidence suggests that the massive block at Yang Shan was not an isolated case. It appears that millions of tons of rock have already been displaced there, leaving behind towering flat quarry walls that do not match traditional quarrying methods. This suggests that whoever worked at this quarry truly possessed both the ability and the technology to move the enormous blocks they extracted. Yet that is not the only mystery found at Yang Shan. The methods used to cut and shape this enormous stone are also a source of immense fascination. At the bottom of the block are massive square holes, which may have been created for use when the stone was intended to be lifted and transported away from the site. The precision and sharpness of the quarry marks, together with the carefully planned smooth surfaces found throughout the area, indicate a level of sophistication that seems to go far beyond what conventional history attributes to ancient civilizations. The presence of straight and precise grooves, combined with the overwhelming size of the block itself, suggests a mastery over stone that should have been impossible for any known civilization of that period. In addition, the erosion and weathering visible on the stone indicate that it is extremely old, possibly far older than the estimated 8,000 years often suggested. The entire site also gives the impression that it may once have been part of some larger complex, since other massive structures can still be seen there. On one of these structures, perfectly squared cavities have been carved into the rock, a feat that would be impossible to achieve with simple bronze tools. The exactness of the 90-degree angles and the careful removal of material from these blocks continue to puzzle modern researchers. One of the most shocking features of these structures is the presence of giant knobs. Ancient megalithic sites adorned with distinctive knobs appear in many parts of the world, suggesting either a shared technique or some deeper symbolic significance among prehistoric builders. In Peru, especially in places such as Cusco, there are many megalithic stones bearing similar protrusions. The Giza Plateau in Egypt, home to the famous pyramids, also contains megalithic blocks with knob-like formations, most notably on the Menkaure pyramid. Mainstream historians usually claim that these knobs were used to help lift and position the stones, serving as leverage points for ropes. However, when one considers the enormous scale of the Yang Shan blocks, it becomes clear that these protrusions may have served some entirely different purpose. But how is it possible that gigantic unfinished stone blocks can be found in different parts of the world, all apparently abandoned in the middle of the extraction process and then left untouched for thousands of years. We have already mentioned the massive stones of Baalbek in Lebanon. The trilithon consists of 3 enormous stones, forming part of the podium of the Temple of Jupiter, each weighing about 800 tons. The true age of this gigantic megalithic platform remains a mystery to archaeologists, although many believe it may be at least 9,000 years old. The Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans all built their own temples and structures on top of this vast foundation, yet none of their construction comes close to matching the sheer scale and engineering sophistication of the Baalbek stones. These colossal Baalbek blocks were cut with astonishing precision, set in place with remarkable accuracy, and fitted together perfectly. Nearby lies an even larger stone, the famous Stone of the Pregnant Woman, still resting unfinished in the quarry. For reasons that remain unknown, this stone too was abandoned. The methods used to transport and assemble these enormous blocks continue to confound historians and engineers alike. Curiously, the Yang Shan quarry in China shows the very same kinds of tool marks that can be seen on the giant stones at Baalbek. Similarly, at the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, tool marks nearly identical to those on the Yang Shan blocks have also been identified. Petra, whose origins may stretch as far back as 7000 BC, contains sedimentary rock surfaces with striations strikingly similar to those in Yang Shan, despite the difference in rock type. Comparisons with modern machinery reveal remarkable similarities between these ancient marks and the striations made by contemporary mining equipment, suggesting a sophistication in ancient stoneworking methods that seems to parallel modern technology. This raises deeply intriguing questions about the capabilities and knowledge of ancient civilizations, hinting that they may have possessed advanced engineering techniques far earlier than scholars have long assumed. More abandoned quarries can be found in Egypt, especially at Aswan, where there lies a gigantic unfinished piece of granite measuring an impressive 137 feet in length and weighing around 1,170 tons. The surface of this massive granite slab is covered with smooth, hollowed-out areas that make it appear as though the granite had been scooped out from the body of the obelisk. Another immense unfinished block can be found at the Minya quarry, also known as the Tura limestone quarry, likewise in Egypt. The Minya block still remains in place, partially carved from the limestone bedrock, clearly showing that the work was abandoned before the stone could be completed and transported. The sudden halt in activity at these sites hints at the possibility of some cataclysmic event that may have abruptly brought these monumental projects to an end. The repeated presence of unfinished work at such locations has led some researchers to suggest that a widespread ancient cataclysm may have caused the abrupt abandonment of these colossal construction efforts. It seems as though these advanced civilizations were suddenly stopped in their tracks, leaving behind these giant stone monoliths as silent witnesses to their former greatness and technical power. In 1992, a remarkable discovery was made in Xuning, a small village situated in Zhejiang province in eastern China. This region, known for its quiet agricultural lifestyle and the scenic banks of the Qiu River, concealed a secret beneath one of its mountains. The mountain itself was not especially grand in appearance, but it contained a number of unusual ponds, many of them distinctly rectangular, hinting that they were not natural at all. These ponds had always been filled with water for as long as anyone could remember, and local farmers regularly drew water from them. After generations of villagers used these mysterious pits without ever seeing them run dry, the ponds became known locally as the bottomless ponds, a name wrapped in curiosity and mystery that stretched beyond even the oldest memories of the village elders. The name seemed justified because the depths of the ponds appeared impossible to measure. For generations, villagers had tried to test their depth using long bamboo poles, but every attempt failed, since no one ever managed to touch the bottom. Strangely enough, fish of various sizes lived in these waters as well. Then, in the summer of 1992, the mystery deepened even further when a villager caught an enormous fish weighing over 30 pounds from one of these seemingly modest ponds. The catch was extraordinary, not just because of its size, but because it raised even more questions about the true depth and nature of the pond, where such a large fish had managed to grow and live. The villager who made this remarkable catch was already known locally for his curiosity, and for his earlier attempts to investigate the depths of these ponds. Inspired by the discovery, he became determined to solve the mystery of the bottomless ponds once and for all. To do that, he concluded that only one drastic step would suffice. The pond would have to be drained completely to expose whatever lay beneath it. After convincing 3 other villagers that the mystery was worth pursuing, they combined their resources to purchase a water pump, beginning an ambitious project that would challenge the legends passed down by their ancestors. On June 9, 1992, they started the difficult task of draining one of the ponds. The pump ran continuously, day and night, while the men worked in shifts, driven by anticipation and the promise of the unknown. After 5 uninterrupted days of pumping, the water level dropped enough to reveal the first unmistakable sign that this was no ordinary pond. To their amazement, a stone staircase began to emerge from the receding water, descending downward into the darkness. It was a moment of revelation and astonishment. Realizing the importance of what they had found, the villagers intensified their efforts. They acquired 4 more pumps, greatly increasing their ability to remove the water. For 17 days they continued their relentless work, watching as the water slowly fell and the scale of their discovery gradually revealed itself. What they uncovered was nothing short of monumental. As the final water drained away, they found themselves standing before the entrance to a vast man-made cave. The pond that had fascinated and sustained their community for generations turned out to be a skylight or rooftop entrance to an enormous subterranean complex built in the distant past. This discovery challenged everything the villagers thought they knew about their land and their history. These chambers would later become known as the Longyou Caves, and they represented a masterpiece of ancient engineering and craftsmanship. In total, 24 caves were discovered. 14 of them had collapsed, but those that remained intact all featured perfectly flat floors and ceilings cut at an exact 45-degree angle. Although the caves were not interconnected, they were all aligned, with their floors positioned at the same level. In some cases, caves had been carved directly beside one another, separated by only 20 inches or 50 centimeters. How could such precision have been achieved? The caves themselves were immense, consisting of vast chambers carved out of solid rock deep beneath the earth. The precision of the carvings, the smoothness of the walls, and the massive scale of the excavation all suggest a level of planning and technical sophistication unprecedented in accepted ancient Chinese history. The design of the caves was both complex and practical, featuring channels and pools that indicate a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics and water management. Despite their ancient origins, these caves remained structurally stable and surprisingly free from debris or sediment, adding even more mystery to the question of their original purpose and the identity of their builders. Another unresolved puzzle is the complete absence of smoke residue on the walls and ceilings. If these caves were carved by human hands deep underground, how did the workers illuminate the space while they worked? On average, each cave spans around 11,000 square feet, and some rise to heights equivalent to a 10-story building. Altogether, the caves cover an area equal to roughly 3.5 city blocks. Estimates suggest that without advanced technology, carving them would have taken centuries, and that does not even include the time required for the intricate chiseling and decorative work visible throughout the site. Such a vast undertaking would normally imply imperial sponsorship. Yet astonishingly, these caves were entirely unknown to recorded history. Despite China's long tradition of meticulous record-keeping, not a single written account describing the construction of these caves has been discovered in any ancient text. The caves present yet another fascinating feature in the form of the marks left on their walls. These marks are identical and highly consistent throughout the chambers. Every one of them is perfectly uniform and set at a 60-degree angle. This has led many observers to suggest that they were produced by some form of advanced technology. Even more intriguing is the fact that these marks strongly resemble those made by modern machinery, prompting direct comparisons with the patterns left by contemporary drilling equipment. When the striations in these ancient Chinese caves are compared with those created by present-day drilling machines, the resemblance is uncanny, almost identical. This naturally leads to a provocative question. Did the creators of these caves possess technology similar to our own? Calculations indicate that building the Longyou caves would have required the removal of millions of cubic meters of rock. Given the average density of sandstone, around 3 tons per cubic meter, the total weight of the excavated material would have been immense, easily reaching into the millions of tons.
One of the things that's baffling is that there's no evidence of their construction. One of the other things that mystifies them is that there isn't any evidence of the people that built these caves. There's no villages or cemeteries or work areas. Over 1 million metric tons of stone were removed from those caverns, but when archaeologists go around the area, they can't find any of it.
Such a massive quantity of excavated rock should have transformed the landscape, leaving behind spoil heaps and debris fields similar to those created by modern mining operations. And yet, the surrounding region shows no sign at all of the huge piles of discarded rock that should exist after an excavation of that scale. But these 24 caves are not the only examples in China that display these apparent signs of advanced technology. In fact, there are thousands of similar caves spread throughout the country. If one travels about 100 miles north, one reaches the Huashan Grottoes. Located near the Yellow River, these grottos comprise 36 caves, each one displaying a sophistication and precision that echoes the extraordinary characteristics of the Longyou caves. The grottos are an architectural marvel, with vast interiors, intricate corridors, and carefully carved details. The sheer scale of the excavation required to create the Huashan Grottoes is astonishing. As with the Longyou caves, the amount of rock removed to create these chambers is monumental. Yet just as mysteriously, no trace of the excavated debris has ever been found. Estimates of the total volume of rock removed to form the Huashan Grottoes run into the millions of cubic feet, a task that would demand an organized workforce and an advanced grasp of engineering principles. Without advanced technology, carving them would also have required centuries. Yet no historical texts or documents have ever been found that explain their construction, their purpose, or the identity of the civilization that built them. Many parts of these caves are still unexplored. Another site where these strange machine-like marks can be seen is the Hejin city fortress. Perched atop a high Lues slope, this mysterious fortress is concealed by deep gorges, making it almost invisible to the untrained eye. Even local residents know very little about its historical origins. It was only through the guidance of an 80-year-old local man named Hu June that the significance and layout of the fortress came to light. His familiarity with the terrain was crucial in revealing the pathways leading to this ancient site. Inside the Hejin city fortress, the land opens dramatically, resembling the interior of some ancient ark. The fortress once contained cave dwellings along its sides, though these have mostly eroded away, leaving only the plateau and its gate behind. When the site was first studied, historians proposed that primitive local farmers with no real means of defense had built the fortress as a refuge against bandits. Yet this explanation creates more questions than it answers, especially when one considers the fortress's monumental architectural features, particularly its massive 30-foot doorway that can be seen from a considerable distance. The scale and complexity of Hejin City Fortress seem entirely inconsistent with the idea that it was merely a simple hideout. As with the other caves already discussed, the cave at Hejin was not formed naturally, but carved deliberately from the rock. Judging by the marks left behind, it was most likely cut using the same kind of technology seen in the other cave complexes. Another mysterious site is the Guyaju caves, often described as China's largest cliff dwelling. Discovered in 1984, this immense cave complex consists of 117 caves and 350 chambers spread over 25 acres or 100,000 square meters, making it an extraordinary monument to ancient ingenuity and craftsmanship. Located about 50 miles northwest of Beijing, the Guyaju caves were carved directly from solid granite, a feat that highlights both the technical skill and sustained labor of their builders. On the granite surfaces, the same marks appear yet again, identical to those found on other megalithic structures. The mystery only deepens because there is no datable archaeological evidence and no historical record mentioning the site, leaving experts unsure of its age, purpose, and creators. The Guyaju caves resemble a honeycomb of rock-cut chambers organized into what appears to be two separate village clusters. The chambers vary in shape, from square and rectangular to circular, and include both single-room and multi-room layouts across several levels, resembling cave dwellings seen in places such as Turkey, Italy, and Spain. The presence of doorways, windows, kang bed stoves, flues, lampstands, and storage compartments, all carved from stone, demonstrates a high degree of domestic sophistication. The architectural design also includes advanced drainage systems, revealing an understanding of environmental control and sustainable living. The dimensions of the caves, with their consistent wall thicknesses, varying chamber sizes, and compact arrangement resembling multi-story buildings, point to highly advanced architectural and engineering knowledge. The site once included stone staircases, ladders, and bridges, while the roofs were carved with channels designed to collect rainwater. The Guantangzi, or Golden Temple, the largest structure within the complex, is especially noteworthy. Made up of 8 chambered rooms spread over 2 floors, it contains finely carved stone pillars, a large central bed, and various pieces of stone furniture, leading some to believe it may have served as either the residence of a leader or a place of worship. Despite more than 3 decades of protection and study since their discovery, the origins, purpose, and final fate of the inhabitants of the Guyaju caves remain unresolved. Archaeologists estimate the site to be between 1,000 and 2,000 years old, but those dates remain speculative, and many believe it is far older. Judging by all of these sophisticated structures, it becomes difficult to avoid the conclusion that some kind of lost civilization once existed in China thousands of years ago. But did this mysterious culture leave behind any other clues? In 1986, construction workers in the city of Guanghan uncovered an archaeological wonder that revealed the remains of a long-lost civilization. The discovery of 2 sacrificial pits filled with hundreds of artifacts, including bronze and gold masks, statues, figurines, and finely crafted marble and jade objects, marked a major turning point in the study of ancient Chinese history. Historians have dated these finds to between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago, placing them at the dawn of civilization, during the same broad era as ancient Sumer and Egypt, among the first civilizations on Earth. This mysterious culture became known as Sanxingdui, meaning the 3-star mounds at the ruins. In total, 13,000 artifacts were unearthed, including more than 1,200 bronze objects, 543 gold artifacts, and 565 jade items. Among the most striking discoveries was a bronze box with a tortoise-shaped lid, dragon head handles, and decorative bronze ribbons. Other important finds included a bronze sacrificial altar, a giant bronze mask, and a bronze statue depicting a human head atop a snake-like body. The giant mask was especially astonishing, measuring around 4.5 feet wide, or 1.5 meters, and 2.5 feet tall, or 75 centimeters. Another extraordinary artifact was a large bronze statue standing about 9 feet tall, more than 2.5 meters in height. In the center of each of the figure's hands are cylindrical holes, indicating that it once held some object now lost. The bronze heads found among the relics are particularly unforgettable, marked by oversized eyes and ears, unlike anything familiar from later Chinese art. Many researchers have suggested that this civilization did not even belong fully to the Chinese cultural tradition, since no later Chinese civilization produced artifacts even remotely similar to these. The mysterious objects are highly distinctive and display an exceptional level of artistic sophistication. Strangely, many of them were broken and bore signs of burning. This suggests that they were either deliberately damaged, burned, and buried, or else left behind by a civilization destroyed in some cataclysmic event. The masks and statues of this culture stand out not only because of their unusual facial features, but also because of the extraordinary craftsmanship and complexity visible in every detail. To create artifacts of such intricacy and quality, this culture must have possessed highly advanced metallurgical knowledge, which is astonishing for a civilization that existed at least 5,000 years ago. Whoever these people were, their sudden disappearance remains one of the greatest enigmas in history. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all lies in the pyramids found across China. Hidden for centuries, the Chinese pyramids remain relatively unknown to the wider world and even within China itself. These ancient structures are scattered across the central plains and deserts of the country, especially in Shanxi province. Yet the Chinese Communist government has imposed strict restrictions not only on excavating these ancient monuments, but even on visiting many of them. Local farmers who live near the pyramids have reportedly been encouraged to plant trees on them in order to conceal them. With more than 200 pyramids discovered, their true purpose and origin remain an enigma, obscured not only by physical barriers, but by official restrictions as well. The first recorded Western mention of these pyramids dates to 1912, when the travel agent Fred Meyer Schroeder reported their existence and wrote of massive pyramids standing there. However, it was not until the middle of the 20th century that these structures attracted wider attention. During World War II, the American pilot James Gaussman flew over the region and photographed these monuments. But only with the arrival of satellite imagery was it possible to appreciate the true number and scale of the Chinese pyramids. Like pyramids in many other parts of the world, the Chinese pyramids are precisely oriented, with their corners carefully aligned to the cardinal directions of the Earth. Astronomically, they are said to be slightly misaligned from the Gemini constellation, yet would have aligned almost perfectly during the spring equinox several millennia ago. This slight 14-degree deviation has been explained by the axial precession of the Earth, the slow wobble of the planet's axis that completes a full cycle about every 25,700 years. If that interpretation is correct, some of these pyramids could theoretically be tens of thousands of years old. Another astonishing similarity appears when the layout of the pyramid complex at Teotihuacan in Mexico is compared with the Giza complex in Egypt and the Xi'an pyramid complex in China. All three sites appear to be arranged in almost the same pattern and are said to reflect the constellation of Orion. How could this be possible when all three lie on different continents separated by thousands of miles? Moreover, all three pyramid complexes are aligned in a near straight line and share the same general orientation. Was this merely coincidence, or does it point to something far deeper? The presence of the Chinese pyramids, especially the colossal Great White Pyramid in the valley of Shanxi province, is considered by many to be one of the most remarkable mysteries of all. Some claim it is the largest pyramid in the world. According to these estimates, it is twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza and rises to around 1,000 feet, or 300 meters. That would mean the construction of such a gigantic pyramid required no less than 50 million tons of stone. Some researchers have connected the vast cave networks mentioned earlier to the massive pyramids found throughout the region. As discussed before, the stone removed from those caves has never been found anywhere nearby. This has led to speculation that the enormous quantity of stone extracted from those underground complexes may have been used in constructing the many pyramids scattered across China, especially the Great White Pyramid. In the same way, the gigantic stones extracted at the Yang Shan quarry may also have been intended for the construction of these pyramids. China's most famous archaeological site, the Terracotta Army, is itself located at the edge of a massive unexcavated pyramid. Discovered in 1974 by local farmers digging a well, the Terracotta Army includes more than 8,000 soldiers along with chariots, horses, officials, acrobats, strongmen and musicians, each figure possessing unique facial features and expressions that suggest they were modeled on real individuals. The statues are life-sized and were once brightly painted, though most of that paint has flaked away with time. The Terracotta Army formed part of a much larger necropolis, intended to mirror the urban plan of the imperial capital and to protect Emperor Qin Shi Huang in the afterlife. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China and founder of the Qin dynasty, was a monumental figure in Chinese history, remembered for his conquests that unified China, for the construction of the Great Wall, and for standardizing the legal and monetary systems. Buried for more than 2,000 years, the Terracotta Army is part of a vast underground mausoleum whose construction is said to have involved 700,000 workers and artisans over several decades. The site itself was a 4-layered subterranean city, and at its center lies one of the greatest mysteries in China, the Emperor's burial mound, which still remains unexcavated because of extremely high mercury levels. Archaeologists believe that beneath this mound lies the chamber containing Qin Shi Huang's remains, surrounded by a miniature cosmic model. The tomb is thought to replicate the universe itself, with a ceiling representing the night sky, decorated with pearls as stars, and a floor designed to imitate the geography of China, complete with rivers of flowing mercury. Considering how astonishing this site already is, one can only imagine what secrets might still lie within the pyramid beside it, which some believe could be thousands of years older than the terracotta army itself.
In the pyramid is a lake of mercury, that there are mechanical devices in there which will fire arrows at you if you go in. That there's a whole story about how intensely protected it is, and up to this day it's not been excavated.
The mystery surrounding the Chinese pyramids stretches far back in history, with documented references to them appearing as early as the 17th century. A Roman Jesuit observer, whose writings survive in historical records, produced some of the earliest Western descriptions of these remarkable structures. But it was Joseph de Guignes, the French Orientalist and sinologist, who contributed one of the most provocative theories in the 18th century. In his 1785 work, an essay in which we prove the Chinese are an Egyptian colony, de Guignes argued for a direct connection between ancient China and Egypt, based largely on the existence of pyramid-like monuments in China, together with certain cultural and linguistic parallels that he believed pointed to an ancient link between the two civilizations. Yet the architectural features of these Chinese structures do not resemble only the pyramids of Egypt. They also echo the pyramids of South America. One interesting site is the Guanlin Temple near Luoyang in Henan Province. This site is steeped in history and reverence, known primarily as the tomb and memorial complex of Guyaju, the famous general of Chinese legend and history. Although the temple today is a commemorative site, some believe that the age and architectural features of certain structures within the complex suggest a far older origin, possibly one predating the accepted historical dates associated with the temple. Many believe that later, Chinese cultures reused this ancient structure as a tomb, in much the same way later Egyptians are thought by alternative theorists to have reused older monumental sites in Egypt, rather than having originally built them. The tomb of the general, located in Jian in Jilin province, forms part of the Goguryeo tombs complex. According to some interpretations, this pyramid structure may be thousands of years older than the Goguryeo kingdom that later used it as a tomb, though not necessarily its builder. The shape of the tomb of the general represents a distinctive architectural style in East Asia, sharply different from the rounded burial mounds more common in China and Korea. Curiously, it has a broad base that narrows toward the top, giving it a form very similar to the pyramids of Mesoamerica built by civilizations such as the Maya and the Aztecs. These similarities become especially intriguing because those cultures are believed to have developed entirely independently on opposite sides of the planet. Nor are the similarities merely superficial. They also seem to include engineering methods, alignments with astronomical events, and the tiered design common to so many pyramids across the world. The idea that such architectural and engineering concepts could appear across continents and cultures raises the possibility of either a shared lineage of knowledge or some ancient connection that has yet to be understood. Curiously, ancient traditions all over the world tell stories of mythical beings who visited humanity and brought advanced knowledge and technology, setting civilization in motion. In Mesopotamian mythology, the Apkallu were 7 sages sent by the god Enki to teach humanity writing, law, temple building, agriculture, and the arts of civilization. In Mesoamerican traditions, especially among the Aztecs and Toltecs, there is Quetzalcoatl, a culture bringer who taught agriculture, metallurgy, the calendar, and the cultivation of maize. In Egyptian mythology, there was Thoth, the deity credited with giving the Egyptians writing in the form of hieroglyphs, as well as many other kinds of advanced knowledge that transformed their civilization. Researchers such as Graham Hancock have suggested that these beings may actually have been survivors of an ancient cataclysm that destroyed a lost advanced civilization, responsible for many of the megalithic monuments scattered across the globe. According to this theory, those survivors spread out into different parts of the world and passed their knowledge to primitive hunter-gatherer societies, helping to ignite the rise of civilization. Interestingly, Chinese mythology also contains a similar figure. The Yellow Emperor Huangdi is a legendary figure in Chinese tradition, who is often regarded as the progenitor of Chinese civilization. His contributions to Chinese culture are immense, ranging from the foundations of traditional Chinese medicine, including acupuncture, to the introduction of wooden houses, the bow and arrow, bronze coins, and writing. The knowledge and technologies attributed to him were so extensive that he became remembered as the founder of Chinese civilization. When one compares the Yellow Emperor to other civilizational bringers from around the world, a recurring pattern begins to emerge, with all of them being credited as the source of crucial advances that transformed society. If this pattern is meaningful, it could imply that the advanced megastructures found across China were in fact the work of a much older civilization, one lost to time and absent from the pages of conventional history. One of the most controversial discoveries in China is the so-called Baigong pipes. The mystery of these strange pipes on Mount Baigong remains one of the most unresolved puzzles of recent decades. In 1996, a research expedition reportedly discovered around 24 pipes with diameters ranging from 1 to 50 inches or from 2 to 40 centimeters, embedded in the surrounding rock formations in a way that suggested an intricate man-made structure. These perplexing objects received widespread media attention, yet they have never been subjected to the level of rigorous scientific study that would be required to settle the matter definitively. Theories about their origins are numerous and varied, ranging from an ancient water distribution system to some kind of advanced drainage mechanism connected to a nearby lake. Chemical analysis showed that the pipes contained high levels of iron oxide together, with notable amounts of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. Remarkably, the objects were estimated by some reports to be more than 5,000 years old, which would place them before the known development of iron smelting in China. Public awareness of the Baigong pipes surged in June 2002, when a Chinese newspaper published an article claiming that the discovery could overturn the accepted story of human history. Other publications soon sensationalized the find, portraying the pipes as remnants of a technologically advanced structure and fueling widespread fascination. During a search for dinosaur fossils near Mount Baigong, a group of American scientists reportedly came across several caves containing even more unusual objects. Among them were 2 rusty iron pipes, each about 40 centimeters, or roughly 16 inches in diameter. One of the pipes appeared to extend from the mountain summit down into the cave, while the other descended from the cave floor, implying that both had once formed part of some ancient system or mechanism. Of the 3 caves identified in the area, 2 had already collapsed, hiding whatever else they may once have contained. Later investigations found about a dozen more pipes nearby, with diameters ranging from 2 to 5 centimeters, or about 1 to 2 inches, suggesting a broader and more complex network. Observers noted that the pipes seemed intricately interconnected, which led some to conclude that their makers must have possessed highly advanced technology. These pipes were found near Lake Toson, around 80 meters or 260 feet from Mount Baigong, and ranged in size from several centimeters down to only a few millimeters, as thin as toothpicks. Some were embedded in the lakebed, while others protruded above its surface. Despite the fascination surrounding them, they have received little sustained scientific attention and are rarely discussed in academic research. Among the theories proposed is the idea that the pipes formed part of an ancient water management system connected to a pyramid-like structure. According to this speculation, a pyramid around 50 to 60 meters, or roughly 200 feet in height, may once have stood on the mountain, complete with triangular shafts and wells descending along its sides. This hypothetical pyramid is thought to have channeled water from Lake Toson through the network of pipes. One of the few scientists to perform such an analysis was the Chinese researcher Liu Shaolin, who found that the pipes consisted mainly of iron oxides, calcium and silicon, with around 8% of the material remaining unidentified. Liu's findings suggested that the pipes may actually be calcite formations or pseudomorphs, where minerals gradually replace organic material such as tree roots over long periods of time, much like fossilization. This interpretation gained support from atomic spectroscopy studies carried out in 2003, which identified organic compounds and growth rings, implying that the pipes were natural formations rather than artificial products of advanced technology. Long before recorded history, There may have existed advanced ancient civilizations capable of building gigantic megalithic structures that would still challenge us even today. They appear to have lifted enormous stone blocks weighing thousands of tons and stacked them with almost laser-like precision, using methods we still cannot fully explain. Many of these blocks remain difficult to lift even with modern cranes, which makes their achievement seem even more extraordinary. They also shaped some of the hardest stone on Earth into mathematically precise and seemingly flawless monuments, leaving us to wonder who these builders were and how they accomplished what appears impossible. Were they truly just primitive societies, or were they masters of a forgotten technology now lost to the sands of time? Explore the evidence pointing to an ancient, global, and technologically sophisticated civilization that may once have ruled across the planet. Its builders created gigantic sites whose ruins still stand today. Discover more in our ebook, Prehistoric Megastructures, a nearly 500-page volume filled with images and in-depth analysis of some of the most astonishing and unexplained ancient structures ever found. Inside, you will explore monuments that appear to have been built with advanced technology from a forgotten age. The ebook is currently available at a limited discount. Make sure to get your copy before the offer ends.